In a quiet riverside village where the nights seemed heavier than anywhere else, darkness settled early and lingered long. The houses were small and weathered, the streets narrow and hushed, and on most evenings, even the stars hid behind drifting clouds. When the sun slipped behind the distant hills, shadows swallowed the marketplace first, leaving it wrapped in a deep blue stillness. Yet, just as the villagers prepared to retreat indoors, a soft golden glow would appear at the far edge of the square. It shimmered gently against the dark, steady and warm. The light came from a modest wooden stall owned by an old man everyone knew as the Lantern Man. His real name was Mr. Wren, though few people used it anymore. To the villagers, he was simply the keeper of light. Each evening, without fail, he arranged his paper lanterns along the front of his stall. They were crafted in shades of red, orange, and gold. None of them were perfectly shaped. Some leaned slightly to one side. Others bore faint creases in their delicate paper. But when he lit them, they glowed with a warmth that felt like home. The light they cast was never harsh. It was soft and inviting, the kind that seemed to wrap around you rather than push against the dark. Whenever someone passed, Mr. Wren would lift his eyes and smile. His voice, gentle and steady, carried the same simple question each night. A little light for your journey. Some villagers stopped to buy a lantern, especially travelers who feared the long road beyond the river. Others shook their heads politely and continued on their way. Yet, whether they purchased one or not, Mr. Wren treated everyone with the same quiet kindness. He believed that every person who crossed his path deserved at least the offer of light. One bitter winter evening, when the wind cut through the marketplace like a blade, a young boy named Taro came running toward the stall. Snow clung to his thin coat, and his hands were red from the cold. He hesitated before speaking, his breath forming small clouds in the air. "Sir," he said, trying to sound brave, "I want to buy a lantern for my mother, but I have no money." Mr. Wren studied the boy for a moment. He noticed the torn fabric at his sleeves and the way Taro's fingers trembled. Instead of asking questions, the old man simply reached for one of the brightest lanterns and placed it carefully into the boy's hands. "Then take one," he said softly. "Your mother deserves light." Taro's eyes widened with disbelief. "But I can't pay you," he insisted. Mr. Wren chuckled, the sound low and warm. "One day, when you can give light to someone else, that will be enough." The boy bowed deeply, clutching the lantern as if it were made of gold. As he ran home through the falling snow, the small flame inside danced wildly, casting flickers of amber across the white ground. It looked, for a moment, like a tiny golden star racing through the storm. Years passed, and the rhythm of the village remained much the same. Each evening, the Lantern Man set up his stall. Some nights, he sold many lanterns. Other nights, he sold none at all. Travelers came and went. Children grew older. Seasons changed. Yet Mr. Wren's gentle presence never wavered. He continued to greet each passerby with the same patient smile. The villagers often whispered among themselves, "He gives away more lanterns than he sells," they would say. "How does he survive?" But whenever someone dared to ask him directly, Mr. Wren only replied, "When you share light, you never run out." There was no pride in his voice, only certainty. To him, the lanterns were more than objects. They were reminders. A small flame could guide a traveler through fog. It could comfort a child afraid of the dark. It could give hope to someone walking home after receiving difficult news. Light did not need to be grand. to be meaningful. It only needed to be offered. Then came a storm, unlike any the village had seen in years. Rain fell relentlessly, drenching the marketplace and flooding the narrow streets. The wind howled through the wooden beams of the houses, rattling doors and shutters. That evening, no one ventured outside. The square stood empty and silent beneath the downpour. Yet, beneath the awning of his stall, one lantern still glowed. Mr. Wren sat beside it, his hands folded in his lap, his eyes closed, as if in quiet reflection. The rain blurred the edges of the golden light, but it did not extinguish it. Through the storm, the flame endured. By morning, the rain had stopped. The villagers stepped cautiously into the square to assess the damage. That was when they saw him. Mr. Wren remained seated at his stall, his expression peaceful, a faint smile resting on his lips. The lantern beside him had finally gone dark. The lantern man had passed from this world during the night. Beside him lay a small note, written in trembling handwriting. It read, "When I am gone, light these lanterns for those who wander. A light is only beautiful when it shines for others." Grief settled over the village, heavy and quiet. But as evening approached, something remarkable happened. One by one, villagers returned to the marketplace, carrying the lanterns Mr. Wren had left behind. A young woman struck a match and lit the first flame. An elderly farmer lit the second. Soon, dozens of small lights flickered against the growing dark. The streets that had once seemed so empty began to glow again. Children held lanterns high above their heads. Couples placed them along windowsills. Travelers paused at the edge of the square, surprised to find the marketplace shining brighter than ever before. Some people wept as they worked. Others smiled through their tears. It felt, in that moment, as though the stars themselves had descended to honor the man who had spent his life honoring them. From that night forward, the village was no longer known simply as a quiet riverside town. It became the Village of Lanterns. Each year, on the anniversary of Mr. Wren's passing, the villagers gathered by the river at dusk. They lit fresh lanterns and released them into the sky, watching as hundreds of glowing orbs drifted upward, carried by invisible currents. Among those who returned every year was a grown man named Taro. Time had strengthened his shoulders and softened his once childish features. But he never forgot the winter evening when an old man had placed a lantern in his trembling hands. Now he stood by the river with his own young son beside him. Together, they held a lantern between them. As the sky deepened into night, Taro knelt and whispered, "Remember, my boy, when you share your light, it never fades." His son looked up at him, eyes reflecting the golden glow. Then, with careful hands, they released the lantern. It rose slowly, joining the others in the dark expanse above. And in that quiet ascent lived the enduring truth Mr. Wren had understood all along. Light does not diminish when given away, it multiplies. The lantern man was gone, but his lesson remained woven into the heart of the village. In every small act of kindness, in every offered hand, in every gentle word spoken during difficult times, his flame continued to burn. True light is not the one that burns the brightest. It is the one that helps others see. Thank you for watching English Life Tales. If this story touched your heart, share it